The text came through at 6:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, and it looked like any other message from Hellen. Routine, expected. Nothing that should have made my stomach drop the way it did. Billy, I've been called to the head office. I'm traveling with Claire. The train leaves at 9 p.m. I was sitting at my desk, 3 monitors glowing in the dark of my home office, debugging code that had been broken since morning. The message pulled me out of that zone where time doesn't exist and problems solve themselves if you stare long enough. I'd been at it for 6 hours straight, living on coffee and the vague promise of ordering Thai food once I fixed this authentication bug. Head office. That meant Chicago. Hellen worked for Barton & Associates, a marketing firm with delusions of grandeur and a corner office downtown that overlooked the river. Their main office was here in the city, but the head office was always Chicago. She'd been there twice before in the 5 years we'd been together. Both times had been planned weeks in advance, with itineraries and hotel confirmations cluttering up our shared calendar. I picked up my phone and opened the Amtrak app. Muscle memory, really. I always checked her travel details, made sure she had everything she needed. It was just something I did, the kind of small gesture that had become routine in our relationship. She'd tease me about it sometimes, call me her travel agent, but I knew she appreciated it. The search results loaded on my screen. No trains to Chicago after 6 p.m. I stared at the screen, waiting for it to make sense. Then I refreshed. Still nothing. The last departure was listed at 5:30 p.m., already gone. The next available train was 6:15 a.m. tomorrow morning. I closed the app and opened their website on my computer, thinking maybe the app was glitching. Technology fails, systems go down. I dealt with bugs and errors every single day. But the website showed the same thing. Last train to Chicago, 5:30 p.m. Next train, 6:15 a.m. tomorrow. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Maybe she meant tomorrow night? But she'd said, leaves at 9 p.m., present tense, not future. And Hellen had never been careless with details before. She was a marketing executive. Details were her whole job. She could recite client preferences from memory, remember birthdays of people she'd met once, coordinate schedules across 3 time zones without breaking a sweat. I texted back, "Safe travels. Love you." Then I sat there, staring at those 3 words on my screen, wondering why they felt like a lie in my mouth. The cursor blinked at me. My code sat unfinished, the bug I'd been chasing for 6 hours suddenly seeming irrelevant and small. 2 hours later, my phone rang. Claire's name lit up the screen, and I felt something tighten in my chest before I even answered. Claire had worked with Hellen for 3 years. They'd gone from colleagues to friends, the kind who grabbed lunch together and complained about their boss over wine at the bistro down the street from their office. I'd met her a dozen times at company events, holiday parties, the occasional happy hour. Nice woman, married to a dentist named Ron, 2 kids in elementary school whose names I could never remember. "Hey, Bill," she said when I answered. Her voice had that tight quality people get when they're stressed and trying not to show it. "I'm so sorry to bother you this late." "No problem. What's up?" "It's about tomorrow. I can't cover for Hellen again. I've already done it twice this week, and my manager is starting to ask questions. I like Hellen, you know I do, but I could get in serious trouble if anyone finds out." The words hung there in the space between us, heavy with implications I didn't want to examine. Cover for her? I kept my voice level, neutral, the same tone I used in meetings when someone suggested a solution I knew wouldn't work. "Yeah, she asked me to take her calls and tell anyone who asked that she was in meetings or out with clients. But I can't do it 3 days in a row, Bill. I could get fired. Ron's practice isn't doing well, and we need my income." "Right," I said slowly. "I understand. That's a lot to ask." "Is she okay? She's been acting strange lately, distracted. She missed a client call last week, and Hellen never misses calls. Never. She mentioned the head office called her to Chicago. Emergency trip with you, actually. Said the train leaves at 9. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was full of all the things Claire wasn't saying, all the words she was weighing before speaking. I could hear her breathing, hear what sounded like a TV in the background, one of her kids asking for something. Chicago? Her voice went up half an octave, surprise breaking through her careful tone. Bill, we don't have anything scheduled in Chicago, not this week, not this month. I'd know because I manage the calendar for our entire team. That's literally part of my job. You're sure? Positive. We had a Chicago trip in March, but that's the last one. The next isn't until November, and it's already on the books. I thanked her and ended the call. Then I sat in my chair, watching the monitors cycle through their screensavers, mountains and beaches and northern lights I'd downloaded years ago and never changed. I tried to remember the last time Hellen had lied to me about something that mattered. Small lies didn't count. Everyone tells small lies. That dress looks great. I'm fine, just tired. Sorry I'm late, traffic was terrible. But big lies? Lies about where she was going and who she was with? I couldn't think of a single instance. Not in 5 years. I'm a software developer. I've been writing code since I was 14 years old, started with Python in my bedroom, and worked my way through every language and framework I could get my hands on. I know systems. I know patterns. I know data structures and algorithms. I know how to find information that people think they've hidden, because nothing is ever really hidden on a computer. It's all there, somewhere, waiting to be found if you know where to look. I started with her laptop, the personal one she kept at home for shopping and emails and the occasional Netflix binge. She hadn't taken it with her, which meant she wasn't planning to work. The password was our anniversary, the day we'd made it official. 4 years, 7 months, 12 days ago. She'd never changed it, and I'd never had a reason to use it before. Until now. Her email was open in the browser, 3 tabs loaded with her inbox. I felt like a thief going through it, like I was violating something sacred. We'd always respected each other's privacy. We didn't read each other's messages or check each other's phones. That was for people who didn't trust each other, and we'd always trusted each other, or so I'd thought. The recent emails were normal enough. Work stuff about campaigns and client meetings, a receipt from Target for things I recognized from our bathroom, a newsletter from Sephora advertising a sale, an email from her gym about a new yoga class. Everything looked ordinary and boring and exactly what you'd expect from someone's personal email. Then I saw one from 3 days ago, forwarded from her work account to her personal one. Subject line: Weekend schedule. The email was from Mason Pierce, Senior Marketing Executive. I'd heard Hellen mention him before, always in passing, always casual. Mason thinks we should pivot the strategy. Mason wants to review the pitch before we send it to the client. Mason said the funniest thing in the meeting today. Mason, Mason, Mason. A name that had floated through our conversations for months without ever seeming important. The email itself was brief, just one line. Confirmed for this weekend. Same hotel. I'll handle the booking. MP. No context, no project name, no client mentioned, nothing that suggested this was about work at all. I checked her work calendar through the shared family iCloud account we'd set up last year to coordinate our schedules. She'd blocked off Friday through Sunday as Client Retreat Chicago. But Claire had just told me there was nothing scheduled in Chicago. Claire, who managed the calendar for their entire team. I opened her text messages, and my hands started to shake. Most recent conversation, Mason Pierce. The messages went back months, hundreds of them, maybe thousands. Late-night texts sent at 11, midnight, 1 in the morning. Emoji that seemed too familiar, too intimate. Inside jokes I wasn't part of. References to things I didn't understand. Remember what you said at that place? Can't stop thinking about last time. You make me feel alive in ways I'd forgotten. Then I found the message from this morning, sent at 8:23 a.m. while I was in the shower. Can't wait for tonight. I've missed you so much. It's been too long since we had a whole weekend together. Her response, sent at 8:31 a.m. while she was supposedly getting ready for work. Me too. Bill thinks I'm going to Chicago with Claire. He won't suspect anything. My chest tightened like someone had wrapped steel bands around it. The room felt smaller, the walls closing in. I kept reading, scrolling back through weeks of messages, and every single one was a knife. Last night was incredible. I can't stop thinking about your hands on me. We need to be more careful. Bill almost saw your name on my phone. I don't know how much longer I can keep doing this. It's getting harder to lie to him. Then don't lie. Leave him. Be with me. It's not that simple. We've been together 5 years. We have a lease. We have a life. You have a life with me too. A better one. I found photos. Not explicit, but intimate in ways that hurt worse than pornography would have. Helen in a hotel room I didn't recognize, wearing a dress I'd never seen. Mason's arm around her waist at what looked like a restaurant, the kind of expensive place with white tablecloths and wine lists thicker than novels. The two of them on a beach somewhere, sunset behind them, her head on his shoulder. Every photo was a place I'd never been. Every smile was one I'd never seen. I spent the next 3 hours going through everything, her laptop, her tablet, every device she'd left behind. I found receipts for hotels in cities where she'd claimed to be at conferences, credit card statements showing charges at restaurants on nights when she'd told me she was working late. A whole shadow life laid out in data and timestamps and GPS coordinates. She'd been seeing him for 7 months, since February. I remembered February. We'd celebrated Valentine's Day at that Italian place she loved, the one with the handmade pasta and the candles on every table. She'd told me she loved me. She'd held my hand across the table. She'd kissed me in the parking lot like she meant it. And all the while she'd been sleeping with Mason Pierce. I found his social media, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. He was 31, same age as me, senior marketing executive at Barton & Associates, graduated from Northwestern, played golf, posted photos of whiskey and expensive watches, and himself at marketing conferences. He looked exactly like what he was, successful, confident, the kind of guy who'd never had to work very hard for anything. Then I found something interesting. Mason was married. His Facebook relationship status said so, married to Georgia Pierce. I clicked on her profile. She was beautiful in an understated way, dark hair pulled back in most photos, serious eyes. A lawyer specializing in family law. Ironic, given what her husband was doing. Her most recent post was from 2 weeks ago, a photo of her and Mason at someone's wedding. They looked happy. Her caption, 20 years of friendship, 5 years of marriage. Here's to the next chapter with my best friend. I sat back in my chair and stared at the screen. Mason had a wife who thought they were best friends. A wife who had no idea her husband was spending weekends at hotels with my girlfriend. An idea started forming in my mind. Not revenge, not yet. Just a thought about fairness, about truth, about making sure everyone involved understood exactly what was happening. Helen came home Sunday night at 7:15 p.m., 3 days after she'd left. I heard her key in the lock, heard her dragging her suitcase across the threshold, heard her call out my name like everything was normal. Bill, I'm home. I was sitting in the living room, lights off, her laptop open on the coffee table in front of me. I'd spent 3 days preparing for this moment, 3 days going through every message, every email, every photo, 3 days watching our 5-year relationship disintegrate into pixels and lies. She came into the living room and stopped when she saw me sitting there in the dark. "Hey," she said, uncertainty creeping into her voice. "Why are you sitting in the dark?" "How was Chicago?" I asked. "It was good, productive, long meetings, but we got everything sorted out." "That's interesting," I said. "Because I called the Barton & Associates head office in Chicago. They said there were no meetings scheduled this week. No one from your office was there at all." She went very still. I could see her mind working, calculating, trying to figure out what I knew and what I was guessing. They must have been confused, she said. It was a last-minute thing. I also talked to Claire. She says she doesn't know anything about a Chicago trip. In fact, she says you asked her to cover for you 3 days in a row, which is strange for someone who was supposed to be traveling with her. Hellen set down her purse. Her face had gone pale in the dim light from the hallway. Bill, I can explain. Can you? I turned the laptop around so she could see the screen. Her text messages with Mason, months of them, displayed in neat chronological order. Because I'd really like to hear your explanation for this. She looked at the screen, and something in her face crumpled. Not guilt, not remorse, just the resignation of someone who'd been caught and knew there was no way out. How long have you been reading my messages? Since Tuesday night, when you sent me that text about the train that didn't exist. You went through my computer? You're sleeping with someone else and you're mad at me for checking your computer? I stood up and she took a step back. You've been lying to me for 7 months. 7 months, Hellen. While I was here thinking we were building a life together, you were in hotels with Mason Pierce. I wanted to tell you, she said, and her voice broke. I wanted to, but I didn't know how. You could have started with the truth. At any point in the last 7 months, you could have just told me the truth. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. You were unhappy. You met someone else. You should have ended things with me before you started sleeping with him. That's how decent people behave. She started crying then, real tears streaming down her face. I love you, Bill. I do. Mason is just... He makes me feel different, exciting, like I'm someone special. And I don't? You make me feel safe, comfortable. But sometimes I want more than comfortable. Sometimes I want to feel alive. The words hit me like a physical blow. Safe, comfortable. 5 years together, and that's what I was to her. The backup plan, the safety net. The guy who paid half the rent and made sure she had everything she needed while she went out looking for excitement with someone else. Get out, I said. Bill, please, we can fix this. Get out of my apartment, take your things and get out. You've got 1 hour. Where am I supposed to go? Call Mason. I'm sure he'll take you in, or maybe you should call his wife and see if she has a spare room. Her eyes went wide. His wife? Oh, did he not mention that part? Mason's married. To a woman named Georgia. She's a lawyer. Family law, actually. I'm sure she'll be very interested to hear about his extracurricular activities. Bill, please don't do this. I'm not doing anything. You did this. You made these choices. Now you get to live with the consequences. She tried to argue, tried to plead, tried to convince me that we could work through this. But I was done listening. I went into our bedroom and started pulling her clothes out of the closet, throwing them on the bed. She followed me, still crying, still talking, but I'd stopped hearing her words. They were just noise now, meaningless sounds from someone I didn't recognize anymore. She packed 2 suitcases, enough clothes for a week, her toiletries, her jewelry, some photos from her nightstand. She moved slowly, like she was hoping I'd change my mind. But I just stood there watching, making sure she didn't take anything that was mine. When she was done, she stood in the doorway with her bags, mascara running down her face. I'm sorry, she said. I really am sorry, Bill. So am I said. And I closed the door. I waited until Monday morning to make the call. I'd spent all Sunday night lying awake, staring at the ceiling, thinking about what I was going to do. Hellen was gone, and that chapter was closed. But Mason Pierce was still out there, still living his life, still going home to his wife every night, and pretending to be faithful. Georgia deserved to know the truth. I found her office number on her law firm's website. The receptionist put me through after I said I needed to speak with her about a family matter. That got her attention. This is Georgia Pierce, she said when she picked up. Her voice was professional, controlled, the voice of someone who spent their days dealing with other people's problems. Mrs. Pierce, my name is Bill. You don't know me, but I need to talk to you about your husband. There was a pause. Then, I'm listening. Your husband has been having an affair with my girlfriend for the past 7 months. Her name is Hellen. They work together at Barton & Associates. Another pause, longer this time. I could hear her breathing on the other end of the line. How do you know this? Text messages, emails, photos, hotel receipts. I have all of it. They spent this past weekend together at a hotel downtown, the Meridian, room 847. I have the booking confirmation. Send me everything, she said. Her voice had gone cold, sharp as broken glass. My email is on the website. I will, but I wanted to talk to you first, person to person, because I know what you're going through right now, and I wanted you to hear it from someone who understands. Did you just find out? 4 days ago. She told me she was going to Chicago for work, but there was no train, and her co-worker didn't know anything about the trip, so I started digging. And you found my husband. I found a lot of things, but yes, your husband is one of them. I heard her take a shaky breath. How long have they been working together? 3 years. But the affair started in February. February, she repeated. We went to Mexico in February, for our anniversary. He told me he loved me on the beach at sunset. He said I was the best thing that ever happened to him. I'm sorry, I said, and I meant it. I know this is the worst possible news, but you deserve to know. Thank you for calling me. Most people wouldn't have. Most people aren't married to family lawyers who can make their lives very difficult. She laughed, a short, bitter sound. No, I suppose they're not. Send me everything you have. I'll take care of the rest. I sent her the files. All of them. Every text message, every email, every photo, every hotel receipt. I organized them into folders with dates and timestamps. I even included the booking confirmation for the hotel where they'd spent the weekend, complete with the champagne and roses Mason had charged to his credit card. Georgia sent back a single email. Thank you. I'll be in touch. Georgia didn't wait. She was a lawyer, and lawyers know how to make an impact. On Tuesday morning, she walked into Barton & Associates at 9:30 a.m. I know because one of Helen's co-workers, a guy named James, who I'd met at a few company parties, called me to tell me what happened. Georgia came dressed in a sharp black suit, carrying a briefcase, looking every inch the professional. The receptionist tried to stop her, but Georgia just smiled and said she was there to see her husband. By the time security figured out what was happening, she was already at Mason's office. She opened the door without knocking. Mason was inside, sitting at his desk, Hellen standing next to him reviewing something on his computer. They looked up when the door opened, and according to James, who was walking past at exactly the right moment, the look on both their faces was priceless. "Hello, darling," Georgia said to Mason. Her voice was loud enough that people in the surrounding offices stopped what they were doing to listen. "I thought I'd stop by and see where you work. Meet your colleagues, especially this one." She turned to Hellen. "You must be Hellen. I've heard so much about you." "Well, actually, I hadn't heard anything about you until yesterday. My husband forgot to mention he was sleeping with you." Hellen went white. Mason stood up, his chair rolling backward and hitting the wall. "Georgia, this isn't the place." "Really? Because I think this is the perfect place. After all, this is where it started, isn't it? Where you decided that our marriage vows didn't matter. Where you looked at this woman and thought, sure, why not throw away 5 years of marriage for a cheap affair?" People were gathering in the hallway now. James said there were at least a dozen employees watching, including their boss, a man named Richard, who ran the whole marketing department. "I'm not here to make a scene," Georgia continued, her voice calm and controlled despite the fury in her words. "I'm here to make sure everyone knows exactly who they're working with. Mason Pierce, senior marketing executive, devoted husband, and serial cheater. And Hellen, I'm sorry, I don't know your last name. Hellen, the woman who's been sleeping with someone else's husband for 7 months." "I didn't know he was married," Hellen said weakly. "She knew," I said. Everyone turned. I was standing in the hallway with James. I'd driven over as soon as he called me, unable to resist watching this play out. She knew, I repeated, stepping into the office. I have the text messages. She knew exactly what she was doing. Mason's face went from pale to red. Who the hell are you? I'm Bill, Hellen's boyfriend. Or I was, until I found out about you. Georgia looked at me and smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. It was the smile of a predator recognizing an ally. Bill and I had a very informative conversation yesterday. He was kind enough to share all the evidence he'd collected. Text messages, emails, photos, hotel receipts. 7 months' worth. This is a private matter, Mason said, trying to regain control. You need to leave, both of you. Oh, I'll leave, Georgia said. But first, I wanted to give you this. She reached into her briefcase and pulled out a manila envelope. She tossed it onto his desk. Divorce papers. I'm taking the house, the car, and half of everything else. My lawyer will be in touch about the rest. You can keep your mistress. I'm done. She turned to Hellen. And you should know, he's been doing this for years. You're not special. You're just the latest. There was someone before you, and there'll be someone after you. That's who he is. Then she walked out, her heels clicking on the tile floor, her head held high. I followed her, leaving Mason and Hellen standing there in front of their entire office, their dirty secret now common knowledge. In the parking lot, Georgia stopped next to her car and turned to me. Thank you, she said, for calling me, for giving me the ammunition I needed. Thank you for doing what I couldn't. I wanted to hurt them, but I didn't know how. I'm very good at hurting people, she said. It's literally my job. She got in her car and drove away, and I stood there in the parking lot, feeling something like satisfaction for the first time in 5 days. The story spread through Barton and Associates like wildfire. By Tuesday afternoon, everyone knew. By Wednesday, it was the talk of the entire building. Mason and Hellen became pariahs overnight. James kept me updated, sending me texts throughout the week. He seemed to enjoy being my inside source. Richard called them both into his office, hour-long meeting behind closed doors. Mason got demoted, no longer senior executive, just regular marketing executive, 20% pay cut. Hellen got written up for unprofessional conduct. She's on probation. They're not sitting together anymore. Mason got moved to a different floor. Hellen tried to quit, but Richard convinced her to stay. Probably doesn't want a wrongful termination lawsuit. I watched it all from a distance, feeling nothing. No satisfaction, no anger, no sadness, just a hollow space where my feelings used to be. Hellen tried to call me 17 times in the first week. I blocked her number after the 5th attempt. She sent emails. I filtered them to spam. She came by the apartment once, but I didn't answer the door. Eventually, she stopped trying. Mason's life fell apart even faster. Georgia was true to her word. She took the house, a beautiful 3-bedroom in the suburbs that Mason had bought with money from his trust fund. She took the car, a BMW M5 that he loved more than anything. She took half his investment accounts, half his retirement fund, half of everything they'd accumulated together. She also told everyone they knew, their friends, their families, their neighbors. She posted a carefully worded statement on Facebook that didn't name Hellen specifically, but made it very clear what Mason had done. The post got 200 likes and 100 comments, all of them supporting Georgia. Mason moved into an apartment downtown, a studio that cost twice what it should because the building had a doorman and a gym he'd never use. He drove a used Honda Civic. He stopped posting on social media. He looked 10 years older every time James sent me a photo from the office. He's miserable, James texted me. Sits alone at lunch. Nobody talks to him. I think he might quit. Good, I texted back. But it didn't feel good. It didn't feel like anything. 6 weeks after everything imploded, Hellen showed up at my apartment again. This time I answered the door. She looked terrible. She'd lost weight, her clothes hanging loose on her frame, dark circles under her eyes, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She looked like someone who hadn't been sleeping. "I know you don't want to see me," she said, "but I needed to talk to you. Just one more time. Make it quick. Can I come in?" "No." She nodded, accepting this. "I'm leaving. I got a job offer in Seattle. I'm taking it. I'm leaving next week." "Good luck." "Bill, I'm sorry. I know I've said it before, but I need you to know that I mean it. What I did was unforgivable. I hurt you in the worst possible way. I hurt Georgia. I destroyed my own life. And for what? For someone who turned out to be exactly what his wife said he was. A liar and a cheat who never cared about me at all. Is that what you came here to say? I came here to ask if there's any chance you could ever forgive me. Not now. Maybe not for years. But someday." I looked at her, really looked at her, and tried to find some remnant of the woman I'd loved. The woman who used to make me laugh. The woman who'd curl up next to me on the couch and fall asleep during movies. The woman who'd once been my best friend. But I couldn't find her. She was gone. All I saw was a stranger who'd borrowed her face. "I forgive you," I said, and I meant it. "But I'll never forget, and I'll never trust you again. So take your job in Seattle and build yourself a new life. I hope you find whatever it is you're looking for. I really do." Tears ran down her face. "I loved you. I want you to know that. I did love you." "Not enough," I said, and I closed the door. 3 months after Helen left, I got a text from Georgia. We'd exchanged numbers that day in the parking lot, but neither of us had used them until now. "Coffee?" the text said. "If you're free, I could use someone to talk to who understands." We met at a cafe downtown, one of those places with exposed brick and artisanal pastries that cost too much. She was there when I arrived, sitting at a table by the window, looking more relaxed than the last time I'd seen her. "How are you?" she asked when I sat down. "I'm okay. Better than I was. You?" "The divorce was finalized last week. I'm officially a free woman." "Congratulations." "Thank you." She took a sip of her coffee. "I wanted to thank you again, for calling me, for giving me the evidence I needed. Mason tried to fight the divorce, but with everything you provided, his lawyer told him he didn't have a case." "Did he try to reconcile?" "Once. He showed up at my office with flowers and an apology speech. I told him that if he ever contacted me again, I'd file a restraining order. He hasn't tried since." "Good." We sat in silence for a moment, drinking our coffee, watching people walk by outside. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we'd never found out?" Georgia asked. "If they'd just kept getting away with it?" "Every day," I said. "But then I remember that I'd rather know the truth and deal with it than live in ignorance, even if the truth hurts." "Me too." She smiled at me, and for the first time since this whole nightmare started, I felt something close to peace. Not happiness. Not yet. But the beginning of something that might eventually become happiness again. "I'm going to Europe," Georgia said. 2 weeks. Paris, Rome, Barcelona. Places Mason always said we'd go but never made time for. I'm going by myself." "That sounds perfect." "It does, doesn't it? What about you? What's next?" "I don't know yet. I'm taking it one day at a time. Work is good. I got promoted last month. I'm moving into a new apartment next week, something bigger, something that's just mine. No shared memories, no ghosts." "That's good. You deserve that." We finished our coffee and said goodbye, promising to stay in touch. I watched her walk away, confident and strong and completely in control of her life, and I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. 1 year after the day I got that text about the train that didn't exist, I was living in my new apartment, working on a project that excited me, dating someone new who made me laugh and never lied about where she was going. Life wasn't perfect, but it was mine, and it was honest, and that was enough. I ran into Mason once, in the grocery store of all places. He was in the produce section, looking lost, holding a bag of apples like he didn't know what to do with them. He saw me and froze. "Bill," he said. "Mason." He looked worse than I'd expected. Older, tired, defeated in a way that went beyond just physical appearance. This was a man who'd lost everything and knew it was his own fault. "I'm sorry," he said, "for what I did, for what we did. I know it doesn't mean anything now, but I am sorry." I looked at him and felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, no pity, just nothing. "Okay," I said, and I walked away. That was the last time I saw him, the last time I thought about him. He was part of a chapter of my life that was over, closed, finished. He didn't deserve any more of my time or energy or thoughts. I went home that night and called Georgia. We'd kept in touch over the past year, occasional texts and coffee dates that felt easy and comfortable. She'd started dating someone new too, another lawyer from a different firm. She sounded happy. "I saw Mason today," I told her. "How was that?" "Weird," he apologized. "Did you accept it?" "I didn't do anything, I just walked away." "Good," she said. "That's all he deserves." Nothing. We talked for a while longer, about our jobs and our new relationships and the lives we were building. Before we hung up, she said something that stuck with me. "You know what the greatest revenge is, Bill? It's not causing them pain or ruining their lives. It's being content without them. It's creating something better than what we had. That's what truly gets to them." She was right. 2 years later, I was at a bar with friends when I overheard someone talking about Barton and Associates. They were hiring, apparently. Huge expansion. New office space. Big changes in management. "Whatever happened to that guy?" someone asked. "The one who got caught cheating with a coworker?" "Mason Pierce? He got fired about a year ago. Performance issues. I heard he's selling insurance now or something. Really fell off." "And the girl?" "Left town. Seattle, I think. Heard she's doing okay out there." I finished my drink and didn't say anything. I didn't need to. Their story wasn't my story anymore. I'd moved on. I'd built something new. Something better. I had a career I was proud of. Friends who actually gave a damn about me. A girlfriend who understood what trust meant and never gave me a reason to doubt her. An apartment with no bad memories haunting the walls. A life that was completely and entirely mine. The bartender asked if I wanted another drink. I said no. I had somewhere to be, someone waiting for me at home who actually wanted me there. Someone who didn't need lies and secret hotel rooms to feel alive. I paid my tab and walked out into the cool evening air. My phone buzzed with a text from Georgia. She'd heard the same gossip about Mason, probably from someone at her firm who still had connections to Barton and Associates. "Karma," was all her message said. I typed back, "We didn't need karma. We handled it ourselves." She sent back a thumbs-up emoji. I pocketed my phone and started walking home. The city lights reflected off the wet pavement from an earlier rain. Somewhere behind me, in some mediocre apartment or cheap office, Mason Pierce was living with the consequences of his choices. Hellen was in Seattle, probably still trying to convince herself that what she'd done wasn't that bad. They were both exactly where they deserved to be. And I was here, free, whole, better than I'd been before any of this started. The building where I used to live with Hellen was 3 blocks away. I could see it from where I stood, the windows of our old apartment dark. Someone else lived there now. Someone else's life. Someone else's problems. I turned and walked in the opposite direction, toward my new place, toward my new life. I didn't look back. There was nothing back there worth seeing anymore. When I got home, I found a note on my door. My girlfriend had left it there before heading to her shift at the hospital. "Dinner's in the fridge. Heat it up if I'm not back by 8. Love you." Love you. 2 simple words that meant everything because they were true. No hidden meanings, no secret agendas, no lies wrapped up in pretty phrases. I unlocked the door and stepped inside, closing it firmly behind me. The sound of the lock clicking into place felt final, like the end of something that had been haunting me for too long. Mason had lost his career, his marriage, his reputation, everything that mattered to him. Hellen had lost her home, her relationship, her standing at work, and had to flee to another city just to escape the consequences. They'd destroyed each other trying to have everything, and they'd ended up with nothing. Georgia had taken everything Mason valued and built a better life without him. And me? I'd gotten exactly what I wanted. Not revenge, not really, just truth, just justice, just the satisfaction of knowing that people who do terrible things eventually pay for them, one way or another. I heated up the dinner my girlfriend had made, something with chicken and vegetables that smelled amazing. I ate it slowly, savoring every bite, thinking about how different my life was now compared to 2 years ago, how much better it was, how much more real. My phone buzzed one more time, a message from an unknown number. I almost didn't open it, but curiosity won. "This is Hellen. I know I have no right to contact you. I just wanted you to know that you were right about everything. Mason was exactly what Georgia said he was. He used me and threw me away the second things got difficult. I lost everything for someone who never cared about me at all. You deserved better than what I gave you. I hope you found it." I read the message twice, then deleted it without responding. She was right. I did deserve better. And I'd found it. Not because of her, but in spite of her. I finished my dinner, cleaned up the kitchen, and settled onto the couch to wait for my girlfriend to get home from work. The TV played something mindless in the background. My cat, a tabby I'd adopted 6 months ago, curled up next to me and started purring. This was my life now. Quiet, honest, mine. No more lies, no more betrayal, no more wondering if the person I loved was who they claimed to be. Just peace. The front door opened at 8:30, and my girlfriend came in, exhausted from her shift, but smiling when she saw me. She kicked off her shoes, dropped her bag by the door, and collapsed onto the couch next to me. "Long day?" I asked. "The longest. How was yours?" "Good. Ran into some old ghosts. They didn't look so scary anymore." She kissed me, soft and sweet and completely present. "Good. Ghosts should stay in the past where they belong." "Yeah," I said. "They should." We sat there together, watching TV, her head on my shoulder, the cat purring between us. Outside, the city continued its endless noise and motion, millions of people living millions of lives, some honest, some built on lies. But in here, in this apartment, in this moment, everything was exactly as it should be. No secrets, no deception, no wondering what the truth really was. Just two people who'd both been burned before and had learned what really mattered. I thought about Mason one last time, selling insurance or whatever dead-end job he'd managed to find after destroying his career. I thought about Hellen in Seattle, starting over in a city where nobody knew what she'd done. I thought about how they'd both chosen excitement over honesty, passion over loyalty, and how they'd both paid the price. And I thought about how I'd chosen differently, how I'd chosen truth, even when it hurt, how I'd chosen to rebuild rather than pretend, how I'd chosen to let go rather than hold on to something that was already dead. That choice had saved me. Georgia had been right. The best revenge wasn't making them suffer. It was being happy without them. It was building something real. It was looking at your life and knowing that every single part of it was genuine and earned and true. Mason and Hellen had gotten their consequences. The office humiliation, the ruined reputations, the destroyed careers, the lost relationships. They'd paid for what they did in every way that mattered. But the real victory wasn't watching them fall. It was this moment, this life, this peace. My girlfriend squeezed my hand. "I love you," she said. I love you too, I said back. And I meant it. Every word, every syllable, every breath. Because I'd learned the hard way what love really meant. Not excitement, not passion that burned hot and fast and consumed everything in its path. But honesty. Trust. Being there when things got boring or hard or routine. Choosing someone every single day, not just when it was convenient or thrilling. That's what Hellen had never understood. That's what Mason had never valued. And that's why they'd both ended up alone and broken while I'd ended up here, whole and at peace and genuinely happy. The TV show ended. My girlfriend fell asleep on my shoulder. The cat stretched and resettled. The city outside my window glowed with 1,000 lights. And I sat there, in my apartment, in my life, surrounded by things and people that were real and honest and mine, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Complete. Not because I'd gotten revenge, not because I'd destroyed the people who hurt me, but because I'd survived, because I'd rebuilt, because I'd refused to let their betrayal define who I was or what I deserved. They'd tried to break me, whether they meant to or not, and for a while, they had. But I'd put myself back together, stronger and smarter and more careful about who I let into my life. And that was the real ending. Not them suffering, not them paying, but me surviving, me healing, me choosing better, me winning.